When people talk about who built America, they love to say immigrants built the country. Black Americans didn't just help build America, they were forced to build it. We are talking about centuries of unpaid labor, resilience, and legacy of Black Americans. Let us watch some clips together. I'll be back for commentaries.
African Americans built this nation. You built this nation. You know, you're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that. You're just starting to get, you built the nation. We all built it, but you were such a massive part of it. Bigger than you were given credit for. Does that make sense? Right? But through generations of blood, sweat, and tears, and you deserve a government that defends your interests, protects your families, and cares for our own citizens first. My administration is fighting with everyone and all our heart to reverse the pain inflicted by Democrat leaders and to deliver hope and opportunity and prosperity for all Americans, but for African American communities all throughout our land.
Who is an immigrant in America, and was America built by immigrants? Yesterday was the Grammys, and there was a strong sentiment in support of immigrants and against ICE. There was a statement that Shabuzi said yesterday that deserves some discourse.
Immigrants built this country, literally. Actually, so this is for them.
You guys remember not too long ago, Zohran Mamdani made the same statements. Now, if we're being honest and we're being pedantic, to say America was a country built by immigrants solely is a complete rewriting of history, and it's disingenuous and erases the story of Black Americans in this country. One of the sentiments I've noticed online over the past couple of years is that everyone across the world associates America with immigration, and they think nothing is indigenous to America. Like, Americans don't have food, Americans don't have culture, Americans don't have anything that is unique to here. And they don't do that for any of the other countries in the Americas, whether it be the Caribbean or South America. And I understand why that is. It's because American hegemony has ran the world for the last century. And with that, American culture and American story has become synonymous with pop culture. So people don't feel the need to divulge and dig deeper. There is no reality that anyone who is a descendant of those formerly enslaved Black Americans in America could be an immigrant. We are the product of forced migration to the New World, and we are one of the foundational Americans. I said previously that the only foundational Americans when this country was created are Black Americans, Native Americans, and those original European descendants. Anyone that came later is an immigrant. Immigration and immigration means leaving a country voluntarily to move and settle somewhere else, whether it be permanently or with their hope of returning home. None of the countries in Africa existed when the slave trade was going on. So no one in the Americas could be an immigrant by definition. We have been in America prior to the inception of America being a country. I say that to say that doesn't erase immigrants from the story of America, because those Chinese and Japanese immigrants that came here helped expanded America westward, and without them, that wouldn't have occurred. The subsequent European migration that happened through Ellis Island helped develop all the major cities like Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, New York. Without our Filipino and Caribbean aunties, we wouldn't have any nurses to take care of us. Without our Mexican and Central American compadres working in the farms, we wouldn't have access to food the way that we do have it, or tend your gardens, or tend your home. So there's so many things that add to the story of America, and immigrants are definitely at the core of the American system, the American story, and American history. But when we're telling that history, we have to tell it correctly, because no Black American will be offended by you saying immigrants definitely developed this country. They developed the country alongside Black people, but at its foundation, for centuries before immigrants came, Black people were here forcibly, free labor, forcibly. They helped develop these Fortune 500 companies, from cotton and tobacco farms, forcibly. All those other immigrants that came at least got paid. Whether they were paid pennies on a dollar, they were still paid, and they were never slaves. So when it comes to telling history correctly, especially during Black History Month, we have to say things correctly. And it's not a dig. I know what he meant, but a lot of people don't know what he meant, because I've seen comments saying, well, how are Black Americans not immigrants? You can't be immigrants in a country you were forced to come to. In the same way that Black Americans aren't immigrants, you would never call a Brazilian an immigrant, a Jamaican an immigrant, a Haitian an immigrant, a Dominican an immigrant. But for some reason, You guys can't seem to grasp that Black Americans are the same exact descendants of those who exist in the Caribbean and exist in South America. Happy Black History Month.
Shabuzi done started a whole diaspora war with his Grammys acceptance speech and then made a post to clarify what he meant in that speech and made it worse. If you happen to miss it, Shabuzi said in his acceptance speech that immigrants built this country. Now, he's since posted this message after receiving backlash from Black Americans saying that Black Americans actually built this country. And in his response, he basically says that he was just trying to honor his parents who came from Nigeria and made a way for him, and that he also respects and is grateful for all the Black folks who came before him. Now, I don't want to speak specifically to Shabuzi's Grammys acceptance speech or the statement that he put out, but I do want to speak to why I believe that there's so much tension between people who are born to Black American parents and people who are born to Black non-American parents. As someone who is a child of both a Black American parent and a non-American Black parent, Jamaican Black parent, I can say that I think a lot of the root of the issue is that people who migrate here have these misconceptions about Black American folks that are rooted in misinformation. A lot of non-American Black folks come over to this country with the idea that American Black folks are lazy or they don't want to work hard enough, and that if they've come over here from another country and they're able to succeed, that Black Americans are just not doing enough. And there's a lot of context that is missing. Number one is that systemic racism and Black oppression looks totally different in America than in most of the countries that people migrate from. And the only real way for you to know that is to know the history and the context to which Black people have existed in America. The other thing is that the curriculums used abroad tends to be more rigorous than the curriculum we use in America. And education is based on class in other countries. So not everybody is able to access an education. And the people who are migrating over to America are people who are fortunate enough to be able to access an education where they're originally from. So in most situations, you coming over here means that you had access to a really strong education, and that allows you to be successful when you get here, versus Black American folks don't have the same level of access to education. And we know that a lot of the communities where Black people exist are underfunded. The people who lack access to education in the countries that people migrate from are not able to migrate here. They're not able to. So it doesn't really, it's oranges to apples. Anyway, I hate these diaspora wars.
If this is your first time here, I am glad you have found this channel. Don't forget to like and click the notification bell respectfully. And always credit goes to the original creator of video clips used in this episode. And for disclaimer purpose, this videos is meant for educational commentaries and is not meant to hate or discriminate anyone. Let us watch more clips.
The construction of the White House, one of the most iconic symbols of American democracy, was built in large part by enslaved laborers, a fact often overshadowed in history books. When President George Washington selected the site for the White House in 1791, Washington, D.C. was still a developing city with little infrastructure. In order to build the home of the president, cheap and skilled labor was required, and much of this labor came from enslaved Black workers who toiled under harsh conditions with no recognition. At the time, the U.S. government struggled to find enough skilled white laborers willing to work on the project, so they turned to slavery. Many of the enslaved workers were rented out by their owners to the federal government, which paid the slave owners, not the workers themselves. Enslaved laborers performed backbreaking work, including cutting stones, laying bricks, sawing wood, and making mortar. Skilled enslaved craftsmen, such as carpenters, masons, and blacksmiths, also played a crucial role, constructing the framework and intricate architectural details of the building. Documents from the time show the names of some of these enslaved workers, including Ben, Daniel, Peter, and Harry, who were all recorded as laborers on the White House. However, because enslaved people were treated as property, Most of their full names were never recorded, and their contributions were largely erased from historical narratives for centuries. The irony of the People's House being built by people who had no rights, freedom, or voice in government is stark. Even after the White House was completed in 1800, slavery continued within its walls as several early presidents, including Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, and Andrew Jackson, enslaved people in the White House itself. It wasn't until 2016, during Michelle Obama's speech at the Democratic National Convention, that mainstream awareness of this history gained significant traction. In her speech, she reminded the nation that she, a black woman, woke up every morning in a house built by slaves, a powerful statement that forced many Americans to confront this painful history.
Immigrants built this country, literally. Actually. So this is for them.
America's physical infrastructure was built on enslaved labor, not no damn immigration. Before mass immigration, all of that stuff began, the core economic foundation, ladies and gentlemen, of this nation, it was already laid. Foundation of Black American labor, we built the roads, the ports, the plantations, the canals, the rail beds, the government buildings, entire cities across the South and parts of the North, ladies and gentlemen. And the wealth generated from our labor financed all the banks, all the universities, all the insurance companies, all the shipping industries. All of early industrialization came from foundational Black American labor. The immigrants followed the goddamn infrastructure. They didn't create it. Don't let these people tell that lie.
But the truth is simple. Black Americans were central to building the foundation of this country. Millions of enslaved Africans were forced into labor. They didn't come by choice, they were brought to work. They cleared land, they built plantations, they grew crops like cotton and tobacco. That became the backbone of America's early economy. That wealth didn't just stay on farms. It helped finance banks, industries, and the growth of entire cities. So, in summary, Black Americans didn't just contribute to America, they were forced to build the foundation through slavery, creating wealth, infrastructure, and economic power. Even after slavery, despite segregation and discrimination, they continued shaping the nation through culture, innovation, and civil rights. America isn't just built on the land and ideas, it is built on the labor, resilience, and legacy of Black Americans. I want to hear your thoughts on the comment section respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video.